Hey everybody, this is Matt Van Okel, and we are here with Steele Sometime.
Hello, and welcome to Steele Sometime, episode 4 of season 3, kicking off right now. I'm Kelsey Steele, joined by my co-host Scott Stewart. We missed y'all last week. It's so good to be back talking all things USL and more. Stu, it's good to see your face. How was this last week without me?
Just tough. It was tough. I'm not going to lie. You know, it was actually so difficult that I had to go schedule 2 Instagram lives with players to preview the Tampa game because I was just, or the Tampa Bay game, excuse me. Because I was just like, who am I supposed to talk with? You know, like I don't have Kelsey. We didn't have a show. So I had to like literally go out of my way because I was that nervous and anxious for Saturday to talk to 2 players. And it wasn't the same.
That's all it is.
I know. It was tough, though. I even had a couple people on the lives who said, we wish Kelsey was here. And I said, in my mind, I wish Kelsey was doing this. You know, like we're all on the same page, everybody. Like it's all good. It's all good. No, good.
Committed fans. Oh,
yeah, you got
near and dear to my heart.
I don't blame them. But yeah, happy to be back.
That's amazing. You held down the fort. I appreciate you much. And obviously so much to go through this show, but first and foremost, super excited to bring on a new producer to Steele Sometime, Clay Benjamin. Welcome to the show. Clay's been with the league, almost 2 years or so now, Clay, and taken over the producing role for Matt Calvo. So some big shoes to fill for our buddy Calvo, but if anyone's going to do it, it's you, Clay. So pumped to have you.
Cool. I'm glad I paid you enough to say that for me. That is, terrible, huge shoes to fill, definitely.
The cost is going to go up after here, so just know that was kind of your base.
Cool. I'll pay you in Skyline. Call it even.
Yeah. Just kind of get used to the cost going up week after week. My budget's never been higher for this program.
I've known Kelsey for long enough to know, her fee always rises.
To be expected.
This intro has got to end. Let's get into week 4, and what a week we had across the league, Stu. Let's get into some headlines initially here, because I think I speak for myself and you and probably the USL community as a whole. We were pumped to see Logan Ketterer's performance out of the Timbers this past weekend. Made his debut for Portland Timbers, had that massive PK save to eventually help the Timbers, to earn 3 points on the road. And get this too, he's the first Timbers goalkeeper to ever save a penalty kick and have a shutout in the same MLS match. Already writing his name in the history books. Logan Ketterer, go on.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, I saw it over the weekend. And I was just like, one, it couldn't happen to a better guy, right? Like, we love Logan Ketterer. He's a fantastic personality, but just the uniqueness of the circumstances, right? Timbers have 2 goalkeepers that go down. They have to make this emergency loan to get Logan in there. Logan starts. He goes up against Chris Wondolowski, one of MLS's all-time great goal scorers, and shuts him down and shuts down San Jose entirely and gets 3 points. So pumped for him. I'm sure Mark Lowry, that he's probably watching on with a big smile on his face as well. But just always great to see somebody get another opportunity to show the player that they are and that the level that they belong in. And Logan is one of those guys, and he belongs at the highest level. And I'm sure when El Paso gets him back, they'll be happier than ever to have somebody who can help them just raise their standard.
Well, and hopefully the Timbers can have them long enough to see the great social media game that comes with Logan Ketterer, because it's absolutely fantastic and a brand of his own. So I miss it dearly, and will never forget all those memories that we had during the hiatus with the USL E-Cup and all of the good stuff that Logan brought our way during quarantine. So good for Logan all the way around. Pumped that he made some noise this weekend for sure.
More than just a goalkeeper. Absolutely.
Can that be his bumper sticker? More than just a goalkeeper.
More than a goalkeeper.
I love that. Elsewhere across the championship this week, 5 USL Championship players called up to the Jamaican national team for 3 exhibitions ahead of the 2021 CONCACAF Gold Cup. A few pretty notable names here, and none that are really going to surprise many people listening to the show. Speedy Williams leading that list, Kevon Lambert, obviously, Junior Fleming. So a few of the names hitting that 30-man squad. So excited to see them kind of on that national stage. I think it's obviously it's a big moment for any of our players, obviously, to make that international stage. And for guys like that, Speedy, for example, who have been back and forth between the national team, it's good to see them get some minutes and lead up to the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 months out. So this is a fantastic opportunity for them to just get together. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Reggae Boys do this summer in the Gold Cup. But another chance to sort of tune up and get together. And I mean, you just named 3 of the best players that we have in this league. They're going to be representing their country this summer. So for Speedy, I'm sure he's like, hey, I may not love getting out of Miami. I was just getting used to these new digs. But yeah, always good to see more championship representation on the national team side. League One will follow suit very shortly, I'm sure. But 3 games I think they have when they're away in 2 months to get prepared for one of the all-time big tournaments they're going to be playing in.
It's heating up. That the summer of soccer is coming, and I, for one, am so hyped about it.
I, for one, am so hyped. Summer of soccer. I've never heard that before. Is that a marketing term?
It honestly just came to me, and I'm really into it. I might trademark that.
You gave it to us for free here, which I'm always grateful for.
Just always gifting you guys, all the listeners, to steal some time. You're very welcome. Let's talk positive news, Stu. I've got a good one for you this week. So I'll lay the ground this way. If you could move to anywhere in the world and work, where would it be?
Somewhere that is going to feed me well, somewhere that's going to treat me well, and hopefully somewhere where the weather is going to be kind to me as well.
Okay. Do you consider Tampa's weather kind to you? Just trying to figure out the thermometer here of like where you land on that.
For about 9 months out of the year, it's kind enough to me. But our summer of soccer is also going to be the summer of sunscreen down here in Tampa Bay.
Okay. So you're going to love this. There's 3 Italian towns offering incentives for young people to come to their cities and work remotely right now. So they're really just kind of like looking for ways to kickstart the travel industry and stuff like that. Portugal's actually building a remote work from home village on their island of Madeira. So Europe's really kind of pushing that work from home mentality. Obviously something the 3 of us know super well after almost a year and a half of doing it. But they're going so far to where the cities of Riti and Santa Fiora, and I apologize if I butchered the pronunciations of those names, but their governments are actually offering to pay half of the rent for remote workers if they come and live in their city and promise that they'll be there for at least 2 months. Unbelievable. And you're talking about anywhere from like 250 to 500. I think it's euros. Correct me if I'm wrong. Euros. So yeah, cut that in half is what you'd be paying for rent if you were to move remotely and work there. So I think they're having a hard time keeping young people, especially in the towns. They want to bring people in to kind of revitalize and bring outside money in. So for the most part, if you're looking to work remotely and that's something you're going to be doing for the near future, all you have to do is prove that you have a remote job, just some signed paperwork from your boss, and you can book your ticket to Italy tomorrow. Have at it.
I could be convinced. I don't know if you have contact information for these programs or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, if you have it, I'd explore it. Italy.
Email over. I'm happy for you. Tuscany is like one of those cities is like right near Tuscany. Like I just, man, it's hard to think of something better, especially if you're like just coming off of like college graduation or something. Like I feel like that's like the perfect opportunity to kind of dive into like a work remote first experience. So what could have been for us, Scott?
I know. Well, and the Amalfi Coast, like you could just pop on over there. It's not like I'm going from Tampa Bay to San Francisco. Obviously, Italy has the advantage of being a little bit smaller. So this is right up my alley, Kelsey. You're about a year late on the news.
I know. I apologize. But listen, Europe is moving it forward. I mean, building remote villages. Are you kidding me? This is incredible. You never would have thought a year ago that this is where we'd be. So I don't know how many times we can say that in our show, but like we just continue. It's so true.
New standards being set all across the world. Steele some Time is just here to conform.
I love that. And you know what Italy does a lot of? They eat well. And it's an easy transition into our restaurant of the week. In this series, isn't just limited championship in League One. Like, I want to make that very open for all you listeners. We're talking any USL market. So this week I had to shout out USL League Two. Shout out League Two, Path to Pro, with a nomination from Wade Brazel in South Carolina. He said Palmetto Pig is a must before an SC United Bantams game. And I took the liberty of just reviewing some photos on the Google, and can confirm this place slaps. The epitome of down-home Southern cooking, Scott, like fried chicken, green beans, the works. I think I literally put on 5 pounds just staring at the photos for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah, say less, honestly. And when that one came through, he was like, and I'll take you to a Bantams game after that. I said, as if I would be able to leave the restaurant in the first place, right? Like, we got to set some benchmarks of how like mobile I'll be after eating at Palmetto Pig. But this was a good one. And I'm with you. I love shouting down a League Two market too. So it's great.
Love that. Support local, and if you guys want to have more of your favorite restaurants featured, just let Scott or I know. Shameless plug at I'm Scott Stewart or at Kelsey J Steele. We would love to hear all of your favorite support local spots. Maybe next week we'll dive into one of mine and Scott's favorites, just to mix it up a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm all in. Our list of favorites is growing, ever growing. So it'll be a tough choice at this point.
It really is. All right. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk a little week 4, Scott, because we had 13 matches in total this past week. A lot really to talk about, a lot of really interesting results as well. First and foremost, your favorite result from week 4?
Ooh, probably the combination of Tacomas, right? Like, I don't know what is happening with San Diego. I think that'll be a much larger conversation, but to get it done and then to host Orange County and get the business done there as well. I think Tacoma is one of those teams where when you look at them at the start of the season, you just don't know. You just can't quite put an accurate prediction on where you think they'd finish. But in saying that, just to be at Al Lang Stadium on Saturday night, at that cathedral of soccer, and to take in our national TV game live in person, I don't know. Tacoma probably gets my favorite results, but you just can't beat that environment. So most entertaining game I'd probably give to Tampa Bay Phoenix.
I had to watch through the screen. So just from my point of view, it was exhilarating. Like this I felt like had all the elements that an ESPN2 game should have. A national TV game, the rivalry, the unfinished business narrative, it had it all. And it really delivered too. Like, I feel like there was so much conversation and hype and questions around this and what would actually come of 90 minutes of soccer between these two clubs. And man, oh man, did they deliver. That was one heck of a matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, Tampa Bay just coming out on the front foot. Like, we typically think of Phoenix as the more attacking of the two sides. Tampa Bay, their defense was just so incredible last year. Tampa Bay came out swinging the first couple punches, and it obviously ended up winning them the fight at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, I know we'll get into it, but it had literally, you said it perfectly. It had everything. It was the game we were waiting for, and both teams definitely brought everything to it.
And I think too, in that scenario, were you surprised, I guess is a better way to put it? Did you have Phoenix taking that one home?
I didn't really make like a prediction, like who I thought was going to win. Both teams played more openly than I thought they would. And I think going into that again, like, I think you kind of assumed Phoenix would open up and be a little bit more expansive, be a little bit more willing to test Tampa Bay in different areas. But I mean, by the time, especially the second half, it was just end to end, like long ball after long ball. Phoenix was playing through, getting down to the end line. Rowdies would make a stop. They're sending Seba the other way. Like, it really turned into a game where no matter who was around you in the conversation you were having, like, it stopped. It was focused on what was happening on the field for all 90, or for at least the second 45. But I mean, even in saying that, I just think that Tampa Bay, they took the right approach. They nailed the approach. Whatever Neill said pregame, whatever their sort of tactical shift was to be able to handle Solomon Asante, to handle the rest of that incredible Phoenix attack. It got a little chippy for sure. Both teams definitely had some unfinished business in them in the physicality side, but yeah.
Like, that makes it, right?
Oh, it absolutely. It makes it all the more entertaining and all the more exciting. And to have like fans in the stands who are actually like actively booing Phoenix players and like shouting down the road. It just like, it brought us back to that moment of like, this was what we wanted before the pandemic. And now we're finally like starting to get back to that normalcy. But man, I kind of expected a 1-0, 1-1. It wasn't too far from that, but it could have been so much more. I mean, both teams like really tried to land a few haymakers, and Tampa Bay just landed one more than Phoenix.
And I love that you bring up the shutdown of Solomon Asante, because that's a pretty big focal point of that game. And I do think that was a difference maker. Obviously, that aggressive attack out of the gate from the Rowdies was huge. And I think that played such a difference. But that back line from the Rowdies on Saturday night was imperative to getting the W and the 3 points for the home side. So we're going to hear from Neill Collins here in a few minutes, and let him kind of take us through his thought process and maybe give us a little bit of insight on the preparation for Solomon Asante and that tough Phoenix attack. But I think that he has to be leaving week 4 being very pleased from what his side delivered on national television on ESPN2.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, he had first choice in almost every single area of the field, right? But especially that back line, Jordan Scarlett, Forrest Lasso, Aaron Guillen, the familiarity, Evan Loro in goal, they know each other now, right? Like they've gone through this whole season. They've really learned the ins and outs of how each person plays. And I think each person brings their own strengths, right? Like Forrest Lasso's a very animated, but like kind of like a tree guy in the back. Like
lumberjack, right? Isn't that the thing?
Yeah, the lumberjack at the back. There's just nothing that gets through him. Jordan Scarlett and Aaron Guillen have both grown into incredible ball-playing defenders. So ball playing coming at them and being able to play out the back and like distribute the ball really, really well. I just think that, we talk a lot, one of the American sports cliches, defense wins championships. And it's not always applicable to this side of our game. But genuinely, I thought if they didn't have even one of these guys tonight, I think it could have been an entirely different story. They've built their team the right way. Neill had them lined up extremely well, and they were able to repel, obviously, a lot. And if you'll notice, the goal Phoenix scored was really not even one where the Tampa Bay defense was like actively engaged, right? Sandy Moar takes it on the turn, just has a pop from however far out, I think a little over 20 yards out. That is a situation where you might ask one of your defenders to step a little bit earlier. But even in that, it was like almost caught off guard. That just shows you how constantly on in cadence the Tampa Bay Rowdies defense is. And for sure, the reason why they got 3 points on Saturday.
An exciting one at a Saturday night out of Al Lang Stadium. Elsewhere across the league, though, I do want to mention we had the return of New Mexico United to the lab, and I think that was probably my biggest moment from week 4, because you have a fan base with New Mexico United that's just been yearning for that in-game, in-house experience again. So everything that came along with it, the pre-party, the tailgates, the in-game atmosphere, just everything about it was absolutely electrifying. And you can feel that just through the social media channels alone, so and over 8,000 fans in-house for that. Her first return since October 2019. I don't think people really realize how long it's been since New Mexico United has played in, front of their home fan base in Isotopes Park, which, if you can remember correctly, that was one of the biggest identifiers of New Mexico United was the people that came to the amount they would fill up the stands, that was such a huge part of who they are. So they had to kind of reinvent themselves in 2020, but I know that was long overdue. And of course, a 3-1 win just caps off a beautiful return to the lab.
Yeah, got the job done, which is the most important thing for the players. But I would think that most times we talk about just this being another game or it's just another week or whatever our season cadence is, that one meant more. That one meant more to Coach Lacine. It meant more to the players, because one of the best things, if not the best thing that New Mexico United does is foster the relationship between the club and the community. And those fans were sorely missed. I can't even imagine going a year and a half without being able to like go down to Al Lang Stadium, or when I was in Indy, like you just think of all the places that you've been and try and place yourself in that situation. And it's just like, it's this moment of ecstasy. So for them to even put a really big stamp on a good performance against Austin and have over 8,000 fans there, it's more than the icing on the cake. I think that was a whole few hours in the kitchen, honestly.
What a line, Stu.
Hey, we're getting back into mid-season form. You know, it took me a little while.
Did that just come to you just now? Did you have that?
I did not have that one cooked up.
Oh man, you gotta love it. The alliteration, the analogies, everything Scott Steele brings to the table. We're gonna end this one on nice buy or sell. So we talked a good bit about Tampa Bay and Phoenix. We've got that meeting we've long been waiting for on Saturday night. Are you gonna buy or sell that these two clubs meet again in the 2021 postseason?
Yeah, I don't even really have to think that long about it, right? Like we talked with Jeff Ruder, kind enough again to even raise his benchmark of all-time steal some time appearances. And I did not have Tampa Bay Phoenix in the last game. The more I watched him, though, I just think, look, there's a possibility that something goes wrong. I think there's just too much grit in the Tampa Bay side for them to not be back in the Eastern Conference Final, which would lead them, obviously, to being able to grit all the way to the championship final. For Phoenix, we talk about it pretty frequently with them as we edge nearer to the postseason. Are they going to be able to, after the grind of the regular season, somehow make it? I saw enough last year to believe that they'll be able to do it again. So I'm going to buy that one. I think it might be this very similar meeting, maybe with a very similar outcome come November.
I am pleasantly pleased, I think I would say, at the 90 plus minutes that we saw with that matchup. And that's one that I think I am, would put my hands up and be like, I am happy to be wrong if we get that in the 2021 postseason. Like that's worth, our bold predictions kind of throwing out the door and being like, Tampa Bay Phoenix, one more to go. Like, let's do it.
Yeah, I think there are probably quite a few clubs who would very, very encouragingly correct me on my prediction. But I think that's what we're sticking with for this week.
The Tampa Bay Rowdies are obviously one of, if not the biggest story to come out of week 4. So obviously a no-brainer for us to have the head man in charge on the show this week. Neill Collins is going to join us. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Neill Collins is going to join Steele sometime. We're back on into Steele sometime and stoked to be joined by Tampa Bay Rowdies head coach Neill Collins. Neill, thanks for stopping by today.
No, it's great. It's great to be back underway, and joining you guys means we're in the midst of the season, so it's always exciting.
And it's a big day for you too. Happy 3-year anniversary.
You know what? I'm normally pretty good at remembering these type of things, but someone mentioned it today and it caught me off guard. So no, thanks very much. It's flown by.
3 years since you were named Tampa Bay Rowdies head coach. Do you have a favorite memory in that span of time?
I think the obvious one is beating Louisville to win the Eastern Conference Championship. But I have to say that along the way, there's been a lot of tough moments, a lot of good moments. But like my playing career, the most overriding emotion is just, again, getting to work with fantastic people. Not only the players, but the staff at the club. And that's what makes the job so enjoyable, coming in every day to work with these people.
You've got a great group over in Tampa Bay, without question. And it was an incredible weekend for that group as well. The game against Phoenix has been circled on the calendars for, it feels like, everyone in this league, not just for your club in Phoenix since last November. And frankly, it seems time and time again that Phoenix is dubbed the team to beat for some reason. They're the, always the ones at the top of everyone's list. Did you feel like coming into this weekend that you guys had something to prove?
I mean, I think, Kelsey, they're rightfully been dubbed the team to beat. Themselves and Louisville have kind of managed to sustain good success. Phoenix, 20 games winning streak was just phenomenal. They've won 2 or 3 trophies over the last few years. Of course, they want to get the big one, just like we do. But no, we always feel we've got a point to prove. I mean, I think the players that we've brought, they've all got hunger and desire, whether it be just for themselves as their own careers, but also to just really put the Rowdies where we feel this club deserves to be. So it was just a great game to be involved in. And I think the motivation was, as always, just to put ourselves forward in the best light, and the players did a good job of that.
You said it yourself. You guys could have had 2 or 3 goals there in the first 10 minutes or so of the game. You really came out aggressive. But that addition of Steven Dos Santos has made a massive difference for your club. You can see it in just those first few weeks. Really, What made you want to pursue him in the offseason this past year?
Well, you've just mentioned, and we just spoke a little bit about, this is me just in my third year. I think as any young coach, I'm learning a lot, and we've tried different things. Some have been right, and some have not been quite as on the money. So we've learned a lot, and I think one of the things that we've learned was we had to add someone a little bit different to our attacking options. And Stephen, as having played against them, having coached against them, he certainly fitted the bill, and having been very successful at Pittsburgh, who've been one of the top teams. When the option came up to try and bring him to the club, we worked really hard to get him here, and he's certainly shown why in his first few performances. But I think the big thing about Stephen is, of course, he's a target man. He holds the ball up, he brings people into play. I think he's made other players in our team better because he's able to carry the workload. Someone like Seba Gonzati, who has been fantastic for us, he's carried a hell of a workload on his own at times up there, and Stephen kind of shares that and lets Seba do some of the things that he's good at, and that's creating chances. So we're really pleased, but as like anything, we still think that we'll get better as we get to know Stephen better and the players get to know him better. So it's exciting.
He obviously adds another element to your attack, but as strong as your attack is, I think we have to highlight how tough your back line was this past weekend. Solomon Asante has been one of, if not the most dangerous offensive threat in the league the last 2 years, and your back line absolutely shut him down. He had only one shot on goal the entire night. That has to be super encouraging for you. Do you feel like your defensive line, your back line carried out the task at hand?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Phoenix attack, as you mentioned, like fantastic top end quality players, and on any given night, if you don't shut them down, and even when you do, they can create moments of magic out of nothing. And Santi Moore did that on Saturday night, but there's no one harder than my back three or my defenders than me, as you can imagine. They get it probably tougher than anyone, but they can take it, and they're so eager to learn and improve. And of course, they set really high standards, and they can be proud of the performance on Saturday. It was nothing less than I expected. And as you can imagine, we sit down and we look at a couple of things that we know that they can still do better. And the great thing for me as a coach is they want to do better, and they'll be the first as well. They will be the first to recognise the person behind them, but then on top of that, the people in front of them. We talked about Seba Gonzati there. I mean, he puts in a fantastic work rate and shift to help the defence. Want to have a Lewis Hilton, whoever it might be that's in the team that's high up the field, they're all there to help out the defence just as much as Aaron Guillen and Forrest and Jordan Scarlett are there to help build attacks. But there's no getting away from their individual performances. Kelsey have been very good to start the season.
I mean, from the outside looking in, it truly felt like your club was hungry. It really felt like they were ready for this challenge and truly ready to prove that not only they belong, that they belong at the top. How do you feel coming out of that performance, truly? Do you feel like your club kind of performed as expected?
Well, I'll take those words as a huge compliment to our players, because I think that's what our fans deserve to have representing the club, as people that are showing that hunger and desire to win as much as the fans want to win. And they've got the athleticism and the ability to do it. And so I think the players should take that as the ultimate compliment. And that's what we've tried to design for particularly the last 2 years. Everyone that we've brought to the club has to bring that desire to want to win, want to fight to get to the top. And we've got to keep that. We've got to keep demanding that, because I think any club should be the minimum. But as we know, it's not always the case. So we want to just keep doing that, and we're going to have to keep doing that, because you look across the league and how many teams are improving, how many teams want to be at the top. Kind of trying to work your way there is one thing, but staying there is the toughest thing, and that's something that we're ready to try and fight for.
I think what was exciting as a whole about Saturday was we got a really nice look at interconference play outside of the postseason. And we're starting to see that so much more. We're seeing multiple circumstances of it this weekend alone with San Diego and Louisville, especially. What are the advantages in interconference play? There's obviously, you see all that from the fan side. The fans love that. But what about from a player and coach side?
I just really enjoyed the fact that, you get to test yourself against one of the best teams, different style. There's no question that there's different styles out in the West Coast in the Eastern Conference, and that's always discussed. So I think we learn a lot more about our team when we play against top teams from across the league. And for me, being part of this league, I just want to see those big games more often. I think anyone was at the stadium, the atmosphere was great. The players and coaches all learned something. I think they felt like they were part of something that was a real good spectacle, which ultimately that's what we're there to do, is to try and entertain people and make them want to come and watch our team in our league. So I'm excited to watch San Diego, Louisville. That will be an excellent game, and it just allows us to learn more about other teams and promotes the USL in a good light, I believe.
We heard from Forrest Lasso last week that this Phoenix game, as big as it was on the national stage, it was just another game. That you guys love that standard response. We know it was bigger than that. Don't try to lie to us. But now that you're through that game, what's the focus for you and your team as you guys kind of look ahead?
I mean, I know you guys must get frustrated. I try not to be too cliched. I don't think I'm guilty of it too much, but we genuinely really try and take it like a week at a time, a day at a time. We don't set too many targets other than a bigger vision that we're all trying to get better. Really, we're all trying to get better, and we believe if we're all getting better individually and collectively, that we're taking the right steps forward. So, tough game this weekend, just followed by another tough game. So Miami coming to town, who've got a fantastic roster that they've put together. They've started the season well. So, the challenges never cease, and that's the great thing about a league. You can't stay complacent for a minute. So that's really just the next challenge. And part of the challenge, as you've alluded to already, is when you're at the top, teams want to knock you off. And right now, we're near the top. So we have to be prepared for that. And that's good for me and the players to learn about how to deal with that. So, yeah, it's just exciting. Looking forward to another home game with more fans.
Do you guys welcome that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I think that's got to be. I mean, we've worked really hard over the past 12 months, and I feel with the group that we've got with 15 guys back, some new players, I'd like to believe that we're going to go from strength to strength as we build those bonds and that chemistry. You talk about the back three, but I also look at people like Zach Steinberger, Seb, or Leo. Those guys, fitness-wise, are fantastic, but their chemistry is building all the time, as it will with someone like Stephen. We've got players to come back from injury still as well. So, look, we've got a lot of games to play. We've got a lot to look forward to and a lot to learn through this season. And that will be, again, Miami. What will they bring that will cause us problems? And we're just looking at trying to cause teams more problems ourselves.
I can imagine that's something that you guys are definitely going to do week in and week out throughout the rest of this 2021 season. And looking forward to that matchup this weekend against Miami. I think that's going to be a really nice showcase of talent for the USL Championship as a whole. So you have at least one viewer here with me for what that's worth, Neill.
That's good. That's good to know.
Appreciate you and your time as always, Neill. And of course, wishing you the best of luck throughout the rest of the season. And hopefully we see a nice run from you and the Rowdies this postseason.
Thanks very much. Great to speak to you guys. All the best.
As to you. Thanks, Neill. Welcome on back in to steal some time, Neill Collins. Always a pleasure. And honestly, always a successful interview when we can make out every single word of a Neill Collins interview, right? Just kidding.
Yeah, he brings it. He's just, I think I could just sit down and listen to that guy talk about sport for hours and hours and hours, like probably much more time than he would be willing to give me. But he's just a great person to listen to. He's got a lot of insight.
I think he could talk about anything. And if he just talked to the way he talks about Rowdy soccer that way, I would believe whatever he told me.
Whatever he's passionate about, I'll listen for sure. I have a feeling if he wasn't super stoked to talk about anything, he probably wouldn't be. I'd probably find myself nodding off every once in a while, but no one delivers Rowdy's news like Neill.
We should have just given him a half hour of the podcast to talk about Earn Brew, and that's
But
it.
just like teach to us, like no questions, nothing like that. He's just speaking to us.
Yeah. I love that. As always, really appreciative of Neill making the time. And we had a few big moments across social media this week, Scott, with double duty Sports Center top 10. So big moments across the USL Championship and League One this past week. We'll start with you in Omaha and Greenville Triumph, who also made their ESPN2 debut, the first USL League One game ever to debut on ESPN2. So just so much to celebrate in that league this weekend. And what a game that one was as well. 1-1 draw, but I can't think of a more fitting way to bring, an incredibly competitive game and just kind of cap it off with a Sports Center top 10. So yeah. Omaha's Nicholas Firmino, he drilled a one-touch finish just outside the top of the 18. He lands at number 7 on Sports Center's top 10. And I mean, Scott, how great was that one? Absolute beauty.
Yeah, you don't really hit them better than that.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of added bonus when it's on national TV, and that's like Omaha's chance to show everybody who they really are. But I wish we could have gotten a little bit more out of the game in total. I thought it was electric. I thought it was super entertaining. I would have loved somebody to come away with 3 points. But if you're going to get your team a point, that's probably the best way you can do it. I wouldn't try and do it a different way. I'll put it that way.
Yep. The story goes on, I think, for Omaha in Greenville and finding a decisive winner between the two of them. But on the championship side of things, we also had a Sports Center top 10, but on the not side. So Orange County SC's Francis Jacobs made not Sports Center top 10 this week at number 9. And if you guys haven't seen this video, highly request going to Orange County. I think they put it on their TikTok as well as Twitter. There's this video capturing him on a golf course attempting to drag the ball. I hope I'm using my terminology right there, Scott. Instead, takes a swing and sends his golf club flying into the pod. There's no word yet if he actually hit the ball or not, but he definitely managed to throw his club into the pond and nowhere to be seen again. Obviously one of those like roll on your, on your backs moments, but just so happened to make that the top 10 this week and thought that was a great one to kind of like mold our SC top 10 week out of USL.
Yeah, I probably not the way he thought he would ever be on Sports Center. But you know what? I'm just glad somebody got it on video. That's where we can land on that one.
Where there's an event, there's a camera. If there's anything that we've learned in the last few years.
Absolutely.
Let's talk week ahead. Week 5 is it starts on Tuesday night, actually. So we've got we're starting to see these weeks now kind of blossom into 5-6 days of the week USL Championship action, which no one's complaining here. Like, give us something to look forward to on a Tuesday night. Am I right? We've got a few really big meetings this week, Scott, as we talked about prior to the show starting today. I'm going to let you have your moment here and let me know which one you're looking forward to the most out of week 5.
That's tough. This is like worse than when you would like put it in an actual like buy or sell for me, honestly. I mean, I'm tempted to go interconference play again. Like I'm tempted to say like a Birmingham, San Antonio. Birmingham, shout out to them for over 10,000 in the stands against Memphis. I thought that was incredible. I would probably pick Louisville, San Diego though, mainly just because it's San Diego's first trip. Landon Donovan's trying to get that squad together. Louisville, obviously like one of the powerhouses of the Eastern Conference. I don't know if it's the same San Diego Louisville thought they were going to face, but Louisville has enough storylines of their own, obviously, with Danny Cruz taking the team under the helm. They got a draw on their first result. They had the week off. I'll probably go with that one. I think that's where my eyes will be on Saturday. But like,
so are you leaning towards Lou in that one?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Lou in that one, but that would then imply that I wouldn't have my eyes elsewhere, like on Pittsburgh, Charlotte this weekend, which I think is a good one. There's a lot.
Can't really pick one. Can't ever draw the line.
Louisville, San Diego is what I'm going to go with. And I'm being forced to stay in that box. So I will.
Listen, I do think it's an incredible opportunity for Landon to get a big result against debatably the best team in the USL Championship, right? So if you're going to turn it around in any week, this is a heck of a week to do it. And I think with San Diego, it's mildly frustrating at times because all of the pieces are there for this squad. It seems very deja vu at this point for us that we're having this same exact conversation that we were having in June of last year, where we're, waiting for San Diego to figure out the kinks and get rolling. But this time they don't have that. Okay, they're a first year team. They're just got a little bit of bumps and rookie kind of jitters in the way. Like that can't be used as an excuse for this club anymore. So I think that they have all the tools and the ability, and obviously the staffing and the resources to make this an incredibly competitive threat in the USL Championship. And I can't script a better scenario for them to come to Louisville and come out with 3 points, come out with a really big result. Can that be done? I'm not going to go that far, but I think when we paint this picture, this is an incredible opportunity for San Diego to really turn it on.
Absolutely. And I think the big thing is, like, you just hope everybody's fit at this point. Like, you just hope that, as if you're loyal coming into Louisville, that you just have the full complement of players and resources available to you. I think that's kind of played a factor in their opening couple of games. And so I don't, Landon Donovan's not an excuse guy. He's not going to get on and tell you about all the trouble that the backroom staff's having, or all the injuries that are piling up, or whatever it is. He's not going to be a guy who comes on and does the Spider-Man meme and starts like pointing in different directions at what is ultimately the same thing, right? He's going to take ownership. And I think part of that, you said it already, part of that is the incredible opportunity he has this weekend. It'd be a great one to bounce back from, but it's probably the toughest one to be able to bounce back from.
They're going to be joined by Tampa Bay and Miami this weekend as well, which is another monstrous of a game. If that's even a word, it is a big one. It's my most look forward to match. I spoke very highly of Miami FC in our preview show this year. I still have some really high hopes for the club. Obviously, Speedy leaving, a little bit of a situation there ahead of the Gold Cup. But I see these two clubs having a very interesting meeting. I don't know now, seeing what I've seen from Miami, if I'm completely bought in on them coming away with 3 points, maybe a draw, but especially after that showing against Phoenix, feeling really confident about Tampa Bay at the moment, as one does. But I think this is going to be a really competitive showing, and for what it's worth, it's going to be the most competitive meeting between the two clubs yet.
Absolutely. I think, they're familiar with each other, right? They've certainly had their fair share of bouts, but it's going to be difficult to bet against Tampa Bay on this one. I think that their confidence has to be higher than ever. They've got to really feel good. But I think the tough thing is, sometimes you'll face a team and their confidence is so high that it's almost this sense of arrogance, right? Like, oh, we've made it this far. Like, we're clearly good. And they're kind of like so much on themselves that they lose focus. As you kind of heard from Coach Collins, that's just not Tampa Bay's ethos. That's not how they operate. So it'll be really, really difficult for Miami. They're going to have to be clicking on all cylinders. They could have put in a higher yielding offensive performance against the Red Bulls, or Red Bulls 2. I felt like they had more chances than they took, honestly. But this is going to be a case where every opportunity, every time you're knocking at the door, you better kick that door down if you're going to beat the Tampa Bay Rowdies, because you're just not going to have nearly as many going against a team with the defense that we've touted really all show now.
They're not the only two great meetings this weekend. Also, we've also got San Antonio and Birmingham, El Paso, RGV. We're talking now about some matchups that we're seeing in this interconference play, which is something that we haven't seen much of. You spoke of 2018 being that one match but between the Monarchs and Tampa Bay. But I think what we're seeing this year is a lot of positive effect coming from these interconference matchups. And my hope is that this is now going to be something we're going to see on a recurring basis year in and year out, because what it's doing is it's not only opening up the league in terms of interest and people caring to tune in, but I think also it's a general awareness. I mean, we talk to some of our clubs on a daily basis, and previously, our guys at Phoenix would never care about what's happening over at Charleston, and now you suddenly have people interested in each other's conferences, which is something that we haven't seen a lot of. And I think there's been a disparity there in terms of interest in other conferences. So I think there's a really cool opportunity here for everyone to really capitalize on the interconference play.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, one of the ways that I've posed it from an advantage standpoint is if you have a team in the opposite conference that is, playing in a similar style to how you set up, or is playing in a similar style to how your next opponent will set up, and you're able to see how they're approaching, like take Phoenix, for example. If Phoenix, and none of these are like direct comparisons, we're just going to use club names for the sake of the analogy. If Phoenix is facing Sacramento next week, but they see Sacramento is on the road to Louisville, and both teams, Louisville and Phoenix, are a little bit more attacking. They like to really push their teams high up the field. They like to move fast. You're able to get a preview of how somebody like Sacramento would set up against Louisville, and then use that to your advantage to be able to see them again later that week or even later that season. So I think it's an advantage for the teams. I think it's a huge advantage for the fans that they're able to just, you said general awareness. I think that's a fantastic point, but they're also just able to like familiarize themselves with what else is out there. And I think that interconference games provide a really, really fantastic opportunity to showcase the league as a whole, but it's also just, it's more for the fans. Tulsa probably wasn't thinking that they'd be in the Eastern Conference, this coming season. So they were probably very focused on the West. Now you just don't know what you're going to get. But it definitely just offers you more opportunity to talk to other teams who have played those guys. And then for the fans, it's just unique. And I don't think you can beat that sort of sense of uniqueness when you're playing on a Saturday night and all of a sudden you're Birmingham and you're playing San Antonio instead of Memphis.
Couldn't say it any better myself. So final buy or sell in our week ahead. You're going to buy or sell the RGV FC's unbeaten streak continues after week 5. So just for some context here, they have not lost a game yet this season. Best start in club history. They do have a draw, but no losses heading into week 5.
That's hard because that means that I'm assuming El Paso is going to win. I'm going to buy that they keep the unbeaten streak alive. I don't know if they'll beat El Paso, but I do think that they've shown enough that they can hold on to it. I welcome being proven wrong here by El Paso this weekend, but RGV is just, they've put together a very interesting squad altogether, but they've clearly found their way to play to the strengths of the players they've got available. So I think they can get at least a point out of the weekend.
What a storyline that would be. We're going to have plenty of them coming out of week 5. An incredible week ahead. A lot of interconference play as we're talking, and some unbeaten streaks up for question as well. So stay tuned to ESPN Plus for all of that coverage and more. For Kelsey Steele, Scott Stewart, and Steele Sometime. We'll catch you guys next week.